木星引力增强影响，地球将于37小时4分12秒后撞击木星。这是一场注定徒劳的救援。
气压等于500维持卫星生命，气压等于500。
So this week we do something a little bit different. I was hoping to see Blinded by the Light this weekend and review that, but on my one afternoon I could get out of the house, my local cinema's parking was full. It was a wasted trip, so instead I stayed home and watched something on Netflix that I've been wanting to see for ages and thought that now was as good a time as any. Sorry that this film isn't hugely topical, but I do also want to point out that it's just poor timing that I'm making this review at the same time protests in China against their government have been escalating, since the film in question, The Wandering Earth, was made by China's state-run media company. I support the protesters and I hope the violence against them perpetrated by the Chinese government stops as soon as possible. Anyway, before Disney started releasing their tentpole blockbusters this year, China's state-run film company, China's Film Group Corporation's The Wandering Earth, was the biggest film of 2019. In fact, take Disney's releases off the table, and it still is the biggest film of 2019, with it making almost $700 million in China alone. Netflix acquired the international streaming rights, which is how almost everyone outside of China will end up seeing the movie. I think it did get a theatrical release in the UK, but roughly for one afternoon. And that's a shame, because if there's one word I would use to describe The Wandering Earth, it's big. And if pushed for two words, I would say really big. The setup is that it's decades in the future and the sun has started to expand and will engulf the entire solar system, so mankind decided to put all of its efforts and resources into building thousands of massive engines and thrusters across the Earth's equator to stop it from spinning, and then they used other strategically placed engines to fly the Earth like a spaceship in a 2,500 year journey to move the planet to a new habitable galaxy. Yes, it's basically the Dalek plot from Dalek's Invasion of Earth.
Fuck you, science!
That's just the setup though. The plot starts when the Earth does its flyby near Jupiter, but starts getting sucked into its gravitational pull. With 36 hours left before Earth crashes into the hydrogen giant, mankind must band together for one last ditch effort to prevent the extinction of humanity. Also, before anyone asks, I watched the subtitled version of this film. Now, when I say The Wandering Earth is big, I don't just mean the scope and the scale, but it's also big in emotions and heart. It's almost operatic in its attempt to wring emotion and drama out of its pretty stock main characters. Absentee dad, stifled son, quirky sister, wise veteran, comic relief, does machines, etc. And while it goes for broke with the cast giving strong performances, I never really found myself attached to almost anyone, which made their prolonged struggles a little bit tedious, not helped by the film's many attempts at humour just not really working with me, though that does happen a lot with me from media coming from the East, it's just personal preference. The film just keeps introducing character after character and feels required to give every one of them a big emotional moment, and it just doesn't feel earned. I did like the subplot, however, with the father on the space station though, mainly because actor Wu Jing does a terrific job carrying numerous set pieces almost entirely on his own. I say almost entirely because there is one set piece with him with a Russian astronaut, and also many of his interactions take place with the computer from WALL-E, which might be a spoiler, but it's the computer from WALL-E. But the elephant in the room is that the film was made by China's state-run media company, meaning that the film can easily be seen and interpreted as corporate propaganda for China's massive climate change initiative, of which the country is now a world leader in declining carbon emissions. The film posits that it doesn't matter the expense or the personal cost, massive worldwide change is needed to prevent human extinction, and the film makes a big point that the Earth's odyssey will be a 100-generation journey. Those fighting to save the Earth now won't even get to see the end result, neither will their children or their children's children, but it's not about them, and this story is significantly bigger than the individual. But it's the imagery that this film provokes that makes me so disappointed that I saw this on my TV on Netflix instead of a cinema screen. There's some stunning landscapes of a world that was once recognisable but now terraformed, like a snowscaped Shanghai, surrounded by frozen oceans, the horizons now dominated by Jupiter, the image of Earth literally flying through space powered by massive engines. The imagery is stunning, and the CGI work is impeccable for the most part, as is the production design and the practical robotic suits our heroes wear. I also bloody loved the score from Roc Chen. A lot of these tracks are immediately going on my Spotify playlist. Faring less better are some of the space sequences and the janky CGI on the large haulage vehicles the protagonists spend most of their time in. But that's almost beside the point, to be honest, because The Wandering Earth goes big in its attempts to find the Earth a new home. It's a film that's made up of sledgehammer blows, not delicate refinery, which means that the pace and the tone are all over the place, but the impact it leaves is undeniable. It's one of those films where my critical faculties acknowledge that much of it doesn't work, but I did have a great time with it, and it's hard not to respect it for taking a potentially indescribable premise and not only coherently filming it, but creating such incredible imagery with it. Against my better judgment, I give The Wandering Earth 4 stars out of 5.
我们决定选择希望。Trilbee.